Welcome back. In this lesson, what we're going to do is set up our security groups and our network ACLs. So let's head over to the console. I'm in the VPC management console, and if you just scroll down on the left-hand side to security, you'll then find network ACLs and security groups. So let's start with security groups. You'll see there's already a couple of default security groups here. Now what we want to do is create our own custom security group. So let's create a security group. I'm going to call this one web-access. I'm just going to copy that and paste it in the description because we've got to have something there. And I want to make sure that I'm specifying the correct VPC because these are created within a VPC. So this is going to be my front-end security group. I'm going to use this for web servers and servers that I want to access directly from the internet. So essentially EC2 instances that I'm going to deploy into my public subnets. So I now need to add an inbound rule. So choose add rule, and I'm going to add a couple. So I need SSH. So SSH is the secure shell protocol, and that's going to mean that I can access my EC2 Linux instances via the command line. Now, if you choose source, you can actually type in your own addresses here, or you can put anywhere. So anywhere is going to add in the 0000/0 and the : /0. Now, these are both the any addresses. This is for IPv4, and this second one is for IPv6. So if I just come down and create a security group now, it will add both those rules for me. Now, as we can see, outbound allows all traffic to any destination, and it just has the IPv4 address in here. That's fine. I do want to allow outbound access from my EC2 instances that are in public subnets. So I'm happy with that, and I'm going to create that security group. So you'll now see under inbound rules, it created two separate rules, one for the IPv4 traffic and one for the IPv6 traffic. And then under outbound, we have the single rule that allows IPv4. So if we do want to allow IPv6 outbound, which we will do a bit later on in the course, then we'll need to add that in. In fact, let's go in and just add that in manually now. So we can just go in, so we can just specify anywhere in here, and it just adds it in automatically. And let's save that rule. So that's done. We now have both outbound rules that we're going to need. What I want to do now is create the second security group. Now, the first thing I need to do is I need to come to my web access security group, and I'm going to copy this security group ID. In fact, you can do it from down here, so you can just choose the copy button here, and that will put it in your clipboard. Let's now choose create security group, and we're going to call this one internal -access. This is going to be for our internal servers. Now don't copy that name yet and paste it into the description because we've already got some data on our clipboard. So let's choose VPC, make sure we select the correct VPC, add an inbound rule, we're going to choose SSH, and then we're going to paste in the security group ID. And so we now have the security group ID. So what this means is any instances we attach this security group to will only allow inbound traffic on SSH from instances in this security group. So that means I'm going to deploy instances into a public subnet. I can connect into them from the outside world, and then I can connect from them to instances in my private subnet. So we call those jump hosts. I'm going to copy this, paste it into the description. So I've got something in there. I'm happy with the outbound rules as they are, and I'm going to create that security group. So that's it. We have our two security groups now. And I only need SSH at this stage, but we might add some other protocols a bit later on as well. So let's go and look at network ACLs. So we can see we have a network ACL for each VPC, and each of those network ACLs is associated with 6 subnets. So by default, there's a default network ACL, and that gets assigned to all of the subnets in your VPC. So this is our custom VPC at the top here. And let's just bring this up so we can have a look at what the inbound rules are. And we can see the inbound rules. We have rule 100, which applies to all traffic, all protocols, all port ranges from any source, and it's allow. So essentially it's going to allow traffic inbound. Then there's the default deny at the end. You can't modify that, by the way. You can't change that. You can't remove it. There's always a deny at the end. But in this case, because the allow is reached first, then all traffic will be allowed. For outbound, we have the same thing. So we have an allow rule and then a deny rule. So if we want to add our own rules, we would then come in And you see the deny rule is not in here because you can't actually edit it at all. We now might put 200, and we can then choose whatever we want to apply it to. So let's say custom TCP. Let's say port 80, and let's say this is a deny. Now that's going to deny traffic from any source on port 80. So what do you think would happen if I apply this rule set? Will it deny the traffic? Well, it won't, because remember they're applied in order. So rule 100 will be processed. Rule 100 allows everything. So then rule 200 won't even get processed. So keep that in mind. Now, we don't actually want to specify anything here. I prefer to use security groups as much as possible. Definitely network ACLs have their place. They're great for deny rules when you want to block access, maybe from malicious users you've identified or malicious IP addresses. But in the case of most circumstances, I prefer to use a security group as much as possible. So we're just going to leave the network ACL as it is, and you can create new ones here as well. So that's it for this lesson. In the next lesson, what we're going to do is some hands-on. We're going to launch some EC2 instances into our subnets.